Welcome to this session on business responsibility reporting in small and medium enterprises. Small and medium enterprises face a lot of challenges in business responsibility practice and also in reporting. They are devoid of systems, robust systems, which the large-scale industry already has. Their employment and employee skills and employee education levels, their supply chains, their operating environment, the realities of operations are entirely different from the large corporations. It is in this context, still they have to be responsible businesses, they have to conduct themselves responsibly, they have to deliver value to all stakeholders, and they have to report. It's a challenge. The panel here consists of representatives from small and medium scale enterprises. There are also a number of thought leaders who have thought through how small and medium enterprises can actually practice how can we simplify the NVGs? How can we simplify the business responsibility practice and reporting? How can we customize it for small and medium and micro enterprises? I'm sure you will enjoy. The panel will be able to address all these issues very productively and you will enjoy the same. I call all of you to join the deliberations and enjoy it in the next 30 minutes.
I think I should share my experience slightly. I have had the opportunity to have started my career with the multinational a few years back in 1968, and thereafter I joined Tata Sons. From Tata Sons, after setting up the Tata Risk Management Services, I moved as the head of Environment, Risk and Insurance Management for the SR Group as a whole, nationally and internationally. And then I thought that I would retire. I don't know how many of you understand a little bit of Urdu and Hindi. So there is a little couplet I would like to recite. जो चैन से सो रहा था मैं ओढ़े कफन का मज़ार में किसने पता बता दिया यहाँ भी सताने आ गए. You see, I was happily retired, and suddenly one fine morning I get a call from one of my old colleagues who happened to be earlier professor in IIT Kanpur and visiting professor at Harvard, saying that, look, Ajit, there's a student of mine who needs your help, and can you help him? This happened to be a medium scale enterprise run by an IIT graduate, foundry unit in Ahmedabad. They were having a little problem on environment. And this was coming from Tata's and Metal Box and SR, where you got everything well organized. This was my first exposure to an organization which had grown from partnership to private limited to a public limited company. However, the proprietorship nature of management continued. So each and everything, it was only the managing director who could decide. So there was no delegation of authority. Anyway, to cut a long story short, that's the first problem with the SMEs, that they do not delegate. And therefore, every decision has to await the big boss. I would extend it a bit. It is the problem of all family-owned companies. Now, when you do not delegate, and you are talking of CSR, you are talking of GRI, you are talking of carbon footprinting, he is the person who has to be convinced. If he is not convinced, you get nowhere. The second problem you have is that even if he is convinced, invariably the organization has underqualified people at the helm of affairs. So you're hand-holding them right across is a far longer process than what you would have, say, with ITC or Tata Steel. And earlier session also, and prior to that, I had mentioned that it has been a process of 5 years for one organization, but they have seen it grow. I have seen it grow because of these efforts from a 500 crore annual revenue. This year they have done 1,400 crores in 5 years. And the mandate given to me by the MD is that you hang on here till we cross 2,000 crores. For no rhyme or reason, but we are only addressing issues like carbon footprint, sustainability, GRI, environmental issues, safety, health of workers, of course, with bits and pieces. But as I said, the decision making comes from the top. If he is not available for a month, month and a half, everything is in limbo. Having said that, I think I leave it open to my panelists here to add to this. I've just shared my experience. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The point, sir, you made was the family-run businesses, the so-called, we call it Sethia companies. And not long ago, my organization was like that. So I can relate to what you're saying to a great extent. And in fact, in yesterday's one of other sessions, we were discussing this, that organizations mature. I mean, you have resource limitation, as you pointed out, that unqualified staff, and it's very pyramidal structure of the hierarchy. So what happens is everything, unless it is approved by the top, nothing moves. A very small thing. Forget about something as big as GRI or sustainability. So that definitely it's one of the major problems there, that the organizational structures in SME, especially probably in India, they've probably evolved as family-run businesses getting into the next big league. But many companies I've seen now are getting into the professional management mode. But still, even having said that, still there is some, that control freak element. Sorry, pardon my words, but that's precisely what it is. Because they keep such a close eye on everything that goes under their noses that it becomes too confining for the people who want to do something out of the box. So certainly that the SMEs, how they have become SMEs, and probably their evolution from much smaller companies into now SMEs. So this shift has probably happened, and so many numbers of SMEs. And what will happen now is, I'm sure that as they grow, what I have seen in my company, what's happening in my company, as we grew from a probably 50-60 crore company now to a size of 1,000 crore company, lot of qualified people, as their paying capacities increased, on salaries increased, a lot of good people, quality people started coming in and started throwing a lot of ideas. And there was a change at the top also. I mean, the younger generation took over from the older generation. So in all, and this is more or less common. What I'm experiencing in my organization probably is common to many. So I'm quite optimistic, sir, about the change, what's going to happen, because probably now people are understanding the importance given to the issues, environmental issues, to be specific. Because as I came to Gujarat in '93 and in Ankleshwar, and there is a sea change from what we are today in 2012 and what Ankleshwar was in 1993. There's a sea change. And awareness. the awareness, the pressure which is put on the SMEs or all these industries by the local people, NGOs, that also had contributed a long way. And of course, they have also, and the compliance, the monitoring mechanism, the pollution control boards, they almost used to turn a blind eye in those days. But now, RTI era, GPCB officers or any state pollution control board officers, if they do something hanky-panky, they are absolutely worried that some RTI inquiry is on the way. So they now think and act to tighten the noose. So that's how the scenario is. And probably the next stage where these companies now will graduate to this initiatives like reporting and maybe sustainability reporting, or they start thinking on those lines. This is what I feel. And I have some other points, but let's first hear from Unmesh.
Yeah, working. Thank you. Apologies for my nasal twang. I have a bit of a cough and cold, so if I'm not audible enough, don't mind. You can ask me questions later on as well. A few of you heard me speak yesterday on how there is a lot of hard work to be done when it comes to either socially responsible investing or even creating a sustainability report. And I made a point that sometimes reporting is not as important as starting the process of analyzing and measuring what you are doing. Many people, and I'm essentially saying what I'm saying right now because for those of you who are small and medium enterprises, I know I'm one. So we need to be aware of the fact that measurement starts with acknowledgement of the fact that do you want to run a company which is a values-based ethical platform or a company which reacts to changing times in such a way that you get the job done no matter what are the consequences to society or environment. So having said so, I believe SMEs have a larger responsibility to move the sustainability reporting needle in an effective way. Why? Because 70% of the country's economy, a larger share of the country's exports, take the case of the textile industry, for example, the largest employer, and take the entire issues surrounding responsible clothing, responsible fashion, the kind of troubles which small and medium enterprises faced in Punjab and Ludhiana when Nike and Reebok started looking at no child labor in their supply chains. So at the end of the day, a small and medium enterprise, whether you're willing to acknowledge it or not, you are a scapegoat in the global sustainability and profit-making scenario. So why be a scapegoat? Why not understand what are the issues involved and how do you grapple with those issues? And I think that's where the entire aspect of reporting, understanding sustainability comes into the picture. Now, there is no need to get worried about these things because you look at a GRI, Global Reporting Indicator-based guideline, you'll say, oh my goodness, should I do my job and get my problem sorted out in terms of running a business, or should I start reporting on these parameters? You see the equally intensive ISO 26000 guideline, which talks about sustainability in much detail, and you will wonder whether quality assurance guideline is more important, environmental management guideline, ISO 14001 is more important, or what now is being talked about as sustainability guideline is more important. You may perhaps think that as a SME, all that I then need to do is stop what I'm doing as business and just start reporting on 1415 guidelines. I believe ISO has 183 guidelines. I'm not too sure how many of them you would want to report on. But the point is this, that as we have been hearing from Mr. Jha as well, that the idea for small and medium enterprises is not always to stay small and medium enterprises, but move to mid-market enterprises, become IPO and get listed as a company. And to be able to do all of that, as you go up the monetary value chain, you'll also have to go up the sustainability value chain. Because tomorrow, as you import, as you export, as you hire people, as you get listed, we heard BSE talk today about their governance structures on sustainability. You will be asked a question that where are you coming from in terms of whether you employ child labor in your premises? Where are you coming from in terms of establishing energy efficiency practices? Where are you coming from in terms of polluting scenarios in your industries, in your factories, wherever you have your locations? And how ethical are you as a company in terms of even tackling issues to do with corruption, bribery, labor which you employ in your factories, how well you treat them? So all these scenarios are extremely useful to understand. I like the National Voluntary Guidelines because of its focus on small and medium enterprises more so than the other two guidelines which we have been talking about. It's a very simple guideline, and in front of me I have the 9 or 10 principles which these guidelines espouse, and they're very, very easy to follow and create a systematic process around. So for example, if you take principle number 1, which is businesses should conduct and govern themselves with ethics, transparency and accountability, that alone will take you some time to do it, because you have to define what is ethics, you have to define what is transparency, and you have to define what is accountability. And from that perspective, yes, the going or the dissipation of authority from the family business owner to a professional team, one sees that happening. In fact, I teach a course in social venture finance at the Narsi Monji Institute of Management Studies in Mumbai, and my colleague teaches a course on the family business. So there they are seeing third or fourth generation entrepreneurs out of family businesses talk about sustainability in a very meaningful way. So I would encourage SMEs to look upon sustainability as a game changer for the business, as a tool which allows you to trade more effectively, be seen and be visible more effectively. And the case is similar to why most small and medium enterprises do not approach advertising agencies, because they never think they want to build a brand. But I know a friend of mine who started a small advertising agency serving only the needs of small and medium enterprises, because everyone has to distinguish oneself to be a brand, because a brand valuation, a brand positioning attracts you more business than what you normally would otherwise. So these are some of my opening remarks. I would love to offer more as we go along through the discussion.
Thank you. I would like to add just a few more points. The point that Umesh made just now, it's not the reporting that is important at the initial stages. It is the systems being put in place. Especially the medium and small industries, the systems are missing. So if you start forcing the entrepreneur or the head of the organization that you have to make this report public, you'll meet a big resistance. However, explaining to him that these systems will help you in your business, and you start putting these systems in place, you have an internal report, and only when you are satisfied you make it public. It makes him more comfortable that this is something internal. But once the systems start getting put in place and the visible results are there for everybody, including down the line management, to see, they start reacting that this is not such a bad thing. The resistance at the top first you have to get rid of, and the way I did it was by telling them, you don't have to report it. It is not public document. It is for your internal consumption. Second stage was, all right, let this document be distributed amongst the board of directors. And the third stage would be to go public. We have not gone public yet with some of it. Parts of it, as you mentioned, have been made public in the annual report. But the priority is systems. So we don't talk of ISO 14,000. We don't talk of OSHA 18,000. But we take the systems and we produce it and we demonstrate right down the line as to what is the advantage. Unless and until you do that, we are not going to go to the next step. So that is primary issue, that first and foremost, to put the systems in place, give the level of comfort to the owner or proprietor or managing director that this is not necessarily a public document. And once he sees a good result out of it, he is willing to go ahead. I mean, you mentioned about Gujarat. You'll be surprised that the managing director there himself volunteered to the Gujarat Pollution Control Board that we are doing online stack monitoring. Would you like to put it on the Pollution Control Board website? This is a volunteer, it is not compulsory in Gujarat, but for a foundry MD to offer this voluntarily was welcomed by GPCB. But why he did that? For the simple reason that, it was demonstrated that, constantly you are very well within the norms set for your emission. So I think, would you like?
Yeah. I think it's working now, I think. Now, sir, what comes to my mind is, yesterday also I made a point about the systems, putting systems in place, which is probably absolutely, it's an imperative for sustainability. Because unless it is system driven, your operations are not system driven, they might as well fall out. Because if it is 2% dependent, which normally is the case in especially the kind of business models we discussed about, because the top boss has few of his right and left hand people, and they are quite senior in the organization, and it runs basically by those 2 or 3. And what I've seen is, if we try to put the ISO, QMS or EMS or any such system in place, there are 2 issues what they perceive. One is, I already have a very limited manpower. They have a very limited time available, and on top of it, they have to produce tons of documents. Somehow, it's a wrong perception. ISO doesn't tell you that any of the EMS or QMS doesn't tell you that you generate 1 ton of paper or 2 tons of paper. It's very simple, but somehow the people who teach, because since they have no knowledge base themselves, a lot of consultants get involved and they educate them on QMS, EMS implementation. And there they practically, they work on man hours. Let's face it, like consulting companies work on man hours. So they increase their man hours. As a result, what you get is they are kind of, it becomes very unattractive for the top bosses to take the system-based approach. Another point which I feel is they are used to take on-the-spot decisions, because it's a family-run business and it's his money at stake and he is the boss. So what happens is, then it becomes a bit more restraining probably for the owners. If we have a system in place, now my flexibility is gone. So probably these are 2 points: the resource limitations, the knowledge limitation, and less. It's a paradoxical thing, sir. Like, unless it is system-based, it cannot be sustainable. And again, sustainability calls for a lot of innovation and flexibility. So it's a very tricky situation. One more point I would like to make is dissemination of information on the reporting, the overall initiative. I think lots and lots and lots needs to be done on disseminating the information. I have very limited exposure, sir, on this reporting, sustainability reporting. I happened to be, I was in Delhi in India Habitat Center. There was a seminar workshop 3 months ago. It was for the new guideline which has come up. And that was my first exposure to this. And many of the things which are there in the new guidelines, I saw the comments in that, they have a big volume, the big document. The justification given for a change from A to B was, since people could not understand it, we are now changing this. Come on, it's your duty to, it's very, very, mera sardi ho gaya, talwar leke naak kato. This is this kind of approach. Now, this is definitely not done, which I have formally registered this on their GRI website. Like, how, you make it simple. Why you want to make it so complex? A similar incident I'll tell you, like, since a lot of consultants were there, nothing against the consultants, they were after me, like, I shared that now we are looking out and we probably want to now publish our first report. So a lot of people started chasing me. Then they gave me tons of material. I asked them, can you just give me 5 bullet points? Why I know, but I have to sell this to my management team. So give me some concise, maybe 4 or 5 bullet points that why I should get into reporting. I have yet to get the response. I mean, they are not able to kind of trim it down to takeaways. I know I've studied it, so I know the takeaways. But somehow it is getting more and more complex, probably deliberately, because typically it was, you hold knowledge, you don't share it, and that's my property. And I make use of it and I exploit it and make money, which is, I mean, it's sickening. So probably, sir, GRI India, I think Aditi was here first day, I mean, at least I've seen her name in this list, the presentations. So GRI India probably has to do something more on disseminating information. My point is information dissemination. It's very, very low as far as this reporting structure goes. I have a parallel like Ministry, MOEF, when they published this September 2006, the new EC notification. They did a brilliant job. I think it was through CII probably, or it was probably through FICCI. And the dissemination of information was excellent. The person, Dr. Raj Gopalan, who actually did that, he himself must have traveled all across the country and made several presentations involving industries associations, and NGOs, and explained the nitty-gritty and the interpretations of the whole notification. Similarly, some effort like this probably needs to be initiated by GRI, probably again by collaborating with maybe CII or FICCI or any such organization, and disseminate the information. I have one more point, but Unmesh.
No, I just want to react to your point of putting people and systems in place. Sometimes we get scared with systemic approach because we think that something is going to come from top and going to sit on our heads and it's complicated and not worth the investment. But I think living sustainability inside a small and medium enterprise means that you will have to train your existing people and make it part of their KRAs to be able to look at sustainability issues even in a small way. So for example, if you have a human resource team already, it takes 2 minutes for you to tell one of the persons in the team to start tracking employee happiness, if you would like, or the ability to score whether employees are really happy with the company and what needs to be done. It doesn't take much time. To begin with, it just takes one more column in your spreadsheet. It doesn't even take you a system for which you have to invest money into. So I think my problem with many things which happen in the world today is the stress on creating overarching systems without taking initial soft baby steps to figure out where we are in terms of how we could do things effectively. Similarly, if you're looking at supply chain, again a big word, but it actually means that who is my purchase manager and where is he or she purchasing materials from? Can I do a quick survey to find out whether any of those suppliers employ child labor? Just let me take one issue. Then you start developing the excitement, the knowledge in the team. You are able to share more information. Sustainability reporting need not be a boring and tedious process. It should be fun. It should be something which allows you to explore newer ways of running your business, creating products and services which suit the market. And there have been case studies which shows that as you do this research with your existing teams, you are able to crack the market better. You are able to understand pricing signals better. You are able to create more resilient products and services. So I think over the long term, yes, you will require a GRI based, ISO based, or whatever national voluntary guideline based approach. But to begin with, if you only look at the national voluntary guidelines, and I say that because it has a MSME component built into it, because it's blessed by the Minister of Corporate Affairs, it's blessed by SEBI, so it makes sense to look at a locally developed guideline to begin with to arrive at some level of comparability. as to are we doing the right thing, what do the guidelines say, and it says something as simple as, and I'm going to quickly refer to a few points, that there should be leadership attention to what you're doing. So the chairman CEO should play a role in trying to oversee what is happening. So again, that is something easily done. You have to create minutes of the meeting and ensure that those minutes of meeting are shared with everyone and approved by the board. Integration, so how you do integrate these entire 7-8 principles along the National Voluntary Guideline spectrum into your daily operations. How to build engagement, which is what I've been talking about with your supply chain, distributors, employees, and then how do you report as and when you're ready. And reporting, like Mr. Jha was saying, can be internal. It can be a learning tool. It can be a kind of a retreat. It can be a scenario wherein you're creating a brainstorming workshop. And in all of this, you will determine the business case. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have a business case for doing all of this, you'll be thinking of it as a charitable option. But if you see the business case going forward, tomorrow when you're filling up export order, you will find a column suddenly somewhere where the importer is asking you, show me that you're child labor compliant, or show me that you have energy efficiency compliant. And then you'll realize that, oh, because I have put this process in place, I'm at least able to say something so that I'm able to back this order. So I think it's a question of how gradually you take steps to move forward in the direction of sustainable reporting.
I think I can see Dr. Rambabu looking at his watch. So based on what Mesh has said just now, and a question that he raised about 5 bullet points, you know, the easiest place to start, apart from convincing the boss, is to go to your marketing team and ask them how well they will react to a report like this and vis-a-vis their own market. And invariably, if you've got the marketing team on your side and the boss, rest is easy. With these, I think we should close and we can open the session to questions, if any.
Yeah, I think, sir, very pertinent. Like marketing guys push that, oh, sir, if we have this, our business will grow, and that will be the trick.
Hello. I'm not posing any question, but I am the recently new consultant in this business, and I am just sharing my experience, which was taught by my mentor. And see, when we gone to the one project, the first statement he made about the GRI report is like, put into the system, GRI report is the outcome. Then it's an outcome. Once you have a system in place, GRI report is just a, outcome of your, whatever the, data which might be generated by the system. Now, for the GRI reporting, there are certain parameters are there. That parameters, it's not like, addressing those parameter. It's like, once you do whatever you do, and to find the gap in between, whatever you are doing, the parameters are the reference. So it's easy. I will say that, GRI reporting methodology, it's a reference for putting the system in place efficiently. Second thing which I got, while doing this, we are doing the carbon footprinting. And while doing that carbon footprinting, we came to know that, certain efficiency which is required in the transportation cost, certain, data inventory which needs to be improved. So while doing this kind of a reporting, you can actually address your economic parameter. So please, this is my experience that, you should not do as a, it's a one additional reporting. It's a part of your integrated system.
Yeah, I'll react to this. A very interesting point you made. See, the way I look at it is, for me, it's a reality check. Forget whether you are going to take in the public domain, whether you are formally going to report. But if you are serious about this, see the guidelines, see what you need to report, do a gap analysis. That probably you make strategies out of those. The gap analysis will provide you such a big insight in your own company. I mean, the MD will also get few number of points which otherwise you would have missed. So I think we should probably, even the elementary school, or not even nursery school step would be just do a gap analysis internally. Get this, shisha dikhane wali baat hai, do the reality check, and probably then you get some clues as where we have to go. This is what I have to say on this.
I basically represent auditing agency. I represent auditing agency, and I have been doing audits in MSME sector for a long time. I would share my observations. In fact, there is a good scheme by Government of India where if you are certified for any management system, say ISO 9000 or 14 or 18,000, then you get 75% of the refund back. If you go as per the records of MSME or the government website, you will find thousands of companies which are certified for management systems, but systems are missing. Because the observation is the involvement of management is not there. Some consultant comes and tells that you will get refund, maybe you will get something more than what you are paying from the refund scheme. So there is no involvement of the management, and it happens to be auditor, consultant audit rather than auditor and organization audit. When you interact with the owner of the company, you ask him what you have planned for next year. He will tell you, okay, I want my turnover to be increased by 10%, or I want to increase my customer base. So those concepts are there in his mind, but they are not communicated to the people down the line. So that communication gap is there. As you said, the systems, you have to say what you are going to do and do as per that. So as he rightly said, management system does not require tons of document. It basically what you plan and communicate that plan down the line and how you are going to achieve that plan and provide those resources to your people. That is, in short, we call PDCA, Plan, Do, Check, Act. That is, in short, the management system. In spite of assistance from the government, these schemes have failed, I would say, because of lack of involvement from the management side. Now the next generation is there. When you interact with the maybe son of the owner, he is interested. He will take interest into that. Now it is changing when there is second generation people who are coming into the system.
I would like to react just to a small paragraph, maybe. I'm not talking about one organization that we were talking about earlier. I'm also part of the National Accreditation Board of Education Training, Quality Council of India. And one of the systems one of the areas where I've been working with them for the last 4 or 5 years is providing accreditation to EIA consultants. So initially when I was going for assessment, now I'm on the surveillance committee, I think about 90 odd consultant organizations that I visited all had ISO 9000 certificate in the MD's room. And if you ask any of the functional area experts or coordinators or the laboratory in charge, what does ISO stand for? None of them knew. And when I asked the MD, they said, oh, I got this for 25,000. See, this is what I was saying earlier this morning, that National Accreditation Board, Government of India, in October we had to cancel 45 franchisee agencies for ISO. Because the organization of 3 people sitting in Delhi, 45 recertifications have been done all over the country on the same day. Therefore, you have not visited any one of them. And you are certifying what? Obviously, you don't know what you are certifying. So you see this, the reason why I said that everybody has to be told systems are more important, especially in the SME sector, is that we don't want them to start buying these certificates. That's easy. And unfortunately, it is so easy. ISO 14,000 you buy, ISO 9,000 you buy. I mean, so, like carbon footprint we were talking about. I refuse to use carbon credit as a bait. I don't talk of carbon credit at all. I say energy saved by you. Thank you. Anything
Just
you want to say?
one comment from my side. What really, probably the challenge lies, it's a behavioral change. Convincing people that systems are there to help you and not to increase your workload. Now, this is somehow easier it seems, but it's the hardest thing to sell probably. At least I have seen in last 20 years that you try to educate people that what system is to ease your workout, not to increase your workload. So it's that shift of mindset, and that probably is a challenge, because see, by multinational, the difference between multinationals or even large Indian companies, or forget SMEs, they probably since for long time they are system driven companies. So there is they are absolutely any new such initiative coming up, their adaptability to any such reporting structure is just very easy for them, because they already know what system is all about, and they already know that it's to help me. It's not to increase my workload, or it's not to make my life difficult, but it is going to make my life easy. As simple as it seems, but somehow the reality is it's very hard to sell that any system I'm going to build in my company is going to ease my work and your work.
No, I'm fine.
Should we close it now? Thank you very much for listening to us. Thank you.